Joining us from Washington is Ginger Chapman, a lawyer and political analyst. And also joining us from Occupied Jerusalem is Ratiba Natsha, member of the Palestinian National Action Committee. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here with us on Q News. So Trump said that that they're not going to do anything when it comes to sovereignty over the West Bank. Do you think, Ginger Chapman, that this is why Netanyahu decided to halt the progress with the legislation?
Yes. Well, first, hello, Mark, and greetings to you and your viewers and your guest, your other guest, Ms. Ratiba. And yes, the vote in the Knesset, even though Vice President J.D. Vance waved it off as largely symbolic, this vote was as J.D. Vance said, it was a slap in the face to him. It was a direct rebuke to President Donald Trump. And they did this because they are extremely unhappy with the progress that's being made toward the peace plan. This is a very delicate part of the process, as Secretary of State Rubio and J.D. Vance said. The important thing is to keep the process going. The Israeli press asked them about threats to the process and when Israel could resume restarting the war. And Rubio was very clear. He said, we're not focusing on threats. We're focusing on the peace process. So it's becoming more apparent that the Deconfliction Center, their command center, is really there to babysit Netanyahu and to keep an iron eye, or to keep as much control as possible over the Israelis because of the ongoing threat that they will restart the war and completely destroy the peace process. And a very important part of this is the West Bank. In America, we are seeing increasing, videos of the increasing violence, the increasing and escalating attacks against the farmers, burning cars. So we are seeing some very violent videos coming out of the West Bank here in America. This is why Israel wanted to silence and remove journalists from Gaza, because as the world sees the events happening in Palestine, the world is ready to mobilize to prevent the ongoing genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. So the West Bank is becoming increasingly important. This is the biggest threat right now to the peace process. The vote in the Likud was a symbolic gesture. It symbolizes that Netanyahu is going to have a great deal of difficulty controlling his hardliners. They do not like this agreement. They do not like losing control of Gaza. They are very apprehensive about the prospect of foreign troops, foreign boots on the ground in Gaza. So the prospect of this international stabilization force is going to be another sticking point.
Okay, and bringing you in, Ratiba Natsha, thanks for being back with us here on Q News. The Knesset vote, as we were just saying there, took place during the visit of J.D. Vance, U.S. Vice President, of course, during his visit to Israel. Very bad in diplomatic terms. Is there some kind of message that the far-right coalition are trying to send to the Trump administration?
I think that the speech of Netanyahu put everything in a very short message when he said that Israel is a very strong country and they have a lot of interest in the Middle East as well as the United States. It's a very big country and strong country and have some interest, and Israel is considering the interest of the United States as well as the United States considering the interest of Israel. He put Israel and the United States in the same and equal level of power, and as if they are playing ping pong together, trying to manage the interest of each of the two countries without telling the world what is happening. So I think it's like a play that everyone have a role in this play, and it's not true that Benjamin Netanyahu is really backing backward to annex the West Bank, and it's not really considering that Trump will be angry if he annexes the West Bank, but he wants to play it smartly so they can have the suitable situation and get more as much as possible benefits from the Middle East. And it's not the Middle East, it's Trump agreement, and the 20 points agreement of Trump, and the benefit of it in the Middle East in total. So I think that annexation for the West Bank is already happened. And what is happening in the Knesset now is trying to legitimize this step, and not voting or voting for this time in the Knesset for the annexation of the West Bank is a message for the United States that we have a limit of controlling our coalition in Israel, and it's good to give us some more spaces in other places to not annex the West Bank orally or maybe in public in front of the Arab world. And in the other side, the visits, the high level of visiting from the United States, including the vice president to Israel, is giving a message that the United States is putting eye in what Israel is doing, in putting two eyes in what Israel is doing, and not letting Benjamin Netanyahu to play his role as a power over the United States power, as he acted previously in the White House and previously in his meeting with Trump in the last month and the visit before that. So I think that everyone is showing its power, the power of its country, and trying to make an equal play, that no one have power over the will of other country in this situation.
Yes, I think Ratiba al-Nusra, they're making a good point, Ginger Chapman. J.D. Vance, of course, himself said that he viewed the Knesset vote as an insult. He called it a stupid political stunt. In the past, Washington has let Netanyahu and Tel Aviv get away with all kinds of terrible things without much comeback. Do you think perhaps Netanyahu thought that he could get away with it? They were perhaps testing the water? Or do you think this is more cock-up than conspiracy?
I think that Netanyahu
no, actually,
I'll just bring Ginger Chapman in, then I'll come back to you, Ratiba.
Okay. Okay. And actually, Ms. Ratiba is correct. There has been a de facto annexation of the West Bank, and Israel is very desirous of Area C with the arable farmland, source of water. So this is an area they are very, they want to acquire. And that is why we are now seeing for the first time a power struggle between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Netanyahu has defied every American president, going back to Jimmy Carter, most notably Clinton and the Oslo Accords. And Netanyahu fully expected that they could defy President Trump. We saw how elated Netanyahu was back around January 18th, before Trump even took office, when he negotiated that very first ceasefire, which everyone thought this could be a great start. And within weeks, Israel violated that ceasefire. We had the March ceasefire again violated. So Netanyahu and the hardliners have treated Trump as though this was business as usual, and they could continue to do exactly what they wanted and thumb their nose at the American presidents. And this time does appear to be different. This is because globally, the entire world is pivoting from west to east. So our Arab partners in the Middle East, Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, they are becoming more globally important. They're becoming energy powerhouses. They are very, very significant in trade with China and Asia. And Donald Trump himself, his family, the Witkoffs, the Kushners, the Trumps, as crass as this sounds, they have extensive business dealings and long-term partnerships with our Arab partners, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. So they want peace. And most importantly, Trump, it's not just his legacy, it's not just risking the midterms because the anger of the American people has been growing. Palestine and Israel have been causing a civil war in our streets, as we've seen from the protests. But more importantly, they're dividing the Republican Party. More and more Republicans are joining the majority of the American people who want the war, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing to stop. We need a Palestinian state, as that is the only solution to 80 years of ongoing conflict. The United Nations was founded 80 years ago this year. So is the state of Israel, and it has been a constant source of genocide, ethnic cleansing, land theft. It's been a painful wound in the Middle East. The world has not been able to move on from this. This is why it is imperative for President Trump now to keep putting his foot down, contain Netanyahu as much as he can, especially with the regard to Israel's known desire to restart the war, to annex the West Bank. This is going to be the riskiest time of all, winding up phase one, trying to establish phase two, getting a United Nations mandate. That was very, very encouraging. Marco Rubio said we need a United Nations mandate so that other countries' soldiers know what their mandate is, what flag they're flying under, so they can participate. It seems like Trump is going to push this through over the objections of Netanyahu and the Knesset by sheer force of his will, even if he has to have high-level officials in Israel at the command center every day, babysitting the IDF and locking down Netanyahu and babysitting Netanyahu in order to force this plan through.
And Ratiba Natsha, I think you said before that Trump doesn't really care about the West Bank. Ginger Chapman there saying it's more about his family's own personal and financial interests, especially when it comes to the Gulf states. But in Israel itself, a lack of support really for this legislation from the Likud party. Do you think Netanyahu himself genuinely opposes annexing the West Bank?
Netanyahu is a magician. So he's trying always to have a play, a hidden play around what is happening. Yes, he said several times that he is going to annex the West Bank, and it's one of his main goals in his political program. And he is with this idea getting over all the West Bank and Gaza since 1996. It's not something new, but it's about timing, and it's about how to pronounce these issue, or to announce it in public for the Arab world, and not to get the upset mind of Trump. Oh, I know that Trump maybe agree that Israel must be a greater and a bigger than it's now, and that means that he will supporting some points, or in some point he will support annexing parts of the West Bank. But as I know, in the Knesset itself, there's a lot of projects for annexing the West Bank. One of it, the one that was voted yesterday, or the day before yesterday on it, and it's about annexing all the West Bank in one time. But there's a lot of other projects that can annex the West Bank partly, like in one part and then the other parts, and others talk about something that it's not against Oslo Agreement. It's about annexing or putting the control on Area C and Area B, and that means that what left from the West Bank it's like less than 11% of the West Bank, which have the majority of the population of the Palestinian people collected in ghettos closed by more than 1,200 checkpoints, closing each country or each even village from the other in the West Bank. And this is another kind of annexation that Benjamin Netanyahu is willing to have in this period, and making the whole annexation for sometimes lately, after he get normalization and agreements with the Arab worlds. So yes, it's about playing on the words and on the time windows that they have to gain as much as possible from the normalization agreements and from the benefits from the Middle East, as well as not getting on the interest of Trump and his family, as you said, in investing in the West, in the Middle East as well. So I think that the issue is about how we announce the annexation, how we call it, and when we do it. It's not about if we will do it or not. This is what is happening in Israel, and the discussion in Israel and in the Knesset right now, and in the office of Benjamin Netanyahu, is about when and how. It's not about the matter of annexation itself. And everyone believes that this government will let the idea of putting control and what they say it, Judah and Samarit, is something out of sense, because it's out of their ideologic thinking and ideologic program that they go to the elections and the next election with it for the Israeli community.
And Ginger Chapman, coming back to you, Donald Trump warned that Israel would lose all support from the United States if it decided to annex the occupied West Bank. Quite big words. I don't think they've ever been spoken by a US president like that before. Is this causing real tensions within the United States between Israel, with the situation between Israel and the US?
Yes, and President Trump's statement that we would cut off all support over the West Bank, this was a surprise. It was a welcome statement to hear Trump putting his foot down. We see that over the last period of time, he's had disagreements with Netanyahu, and yet Netanyahu always gets his own way. It appears that Trump is finally drawing and standing by the red lines. This is important. The West Bank was a red line for our Arab partners. Our Arab partners said the West Bank, that's where, if that goes, we're cutting off support. So this is a very important issue. And as Ms. Ratiba pointed out, Netanyahu and the IDF, they've torn up 1 million olive trees. They are burning down farmhouses, cars, escalating violence. And meanwhile, in Gaza, they are still killing Palestinians every day. They are still blocking aid and starving out the Palestinians. So we see that Israel is still engaging in their decades-long tactics. But for President Trump, he realizes that this situation is unsustainable. We can no longer protect Israel with billions of dollars in aid. The world public opinion is turning against Israel. This is harming America. It's harming the region. And once again, the importance of the Arab countries, and not just President Trump and his family's business interests, but truly there is an economic shift to the East. We are seeing the increasing importance economically, politically, of the Gulf Arab nations, of other Arab countries, and this is their increasing political power is one of the other reasons why Trump is first relying on their help, and secondly, abiding by some of their conditions, especially with respect to the Palestinians need the right to self-determination. They need their sovereign state. They need the West Bank. And this is why Trump is putting his foot down. There is going to be battles and conflicts between America and Israel as this peace process goes. It remains to be seen who will come out on top, but American public sentiment has turned against Israel's endless wars and expansionist, their ethnic cleansing and genocide, and the world has turned against it. This is harming America economically, and this is destroying our ability to interact with the majority of the world on an economic and diplomatic level. President Trump may be the first president to recognize this and do something about this. The American voters are alarmed because of his obsequience to his big money donors. However, he is transactional. He is not an avowed ideological Zionist. He wants peace. He wants this to be over with so he can continue with his peace through prosperity. So I predict there's going to be many more conflicts, but we are relying on our Arab partners to continue pushing Trump, to continue pushing the process and containing Netanyahu and his hardliners in the Knesset.
Ratiba Natsha, after this Knesset vote, let's turn to Gaza. After that vote, how do things stand with Trump's Gaza peace plan?
Actually, till now, this Trump agreement in Gaza is very harsh, and it can be destroyed in any minute. We didn't have a real situation that support this agreement till now. Israel didn't enter for the second period, and which means the negotiation for ending the war in Gaza. So I think that there's a lot of threat on this agreement, more than the voting of the West Bank annexation in the Knesset. Still, we have a lot of obstacles toward this plan, and I think in some point maybe Netanyahu will use a lot of excuses and a lot of maybe ways to destroy this agreement if it's not totally helping him in winning the next election next year in Israel. And I think that, yes, annexing the West Bank will threaten the plan, not in the ceasefire in Gaza Strip mainly, but mainly in the investments and in the Middle East that Trump is seeking, and the relation with the Arab countries and Islamic countries in the Middle East as well. Yes, I think that the United States is putting now the CMCC in Syria and inside Israel to hold Netanyahu and to push this agreement to be a reality, and to put pressure in Israel to implement its part of this agreement as much as possible, so it will not destroy the whole idea of having these benefits and investment in the Middle East, not just the ceasefire in Gaza. And if that means that they will not allow annexing the West Bank for a meanwhile till Saudi Arabia got to the agreement, they will hold it to push the Saudi Arabia to be a part of the Abraham agreements or whatever agreements and alliance Trump is trying to make in the Middle East. So I think that the United States is really putting on eye not to annex or announcing annexing the West Bank in this very sensitive time, that because Saudi Arabia and Egypt specifically is asking to go for a diplomatic way for two-state solution, and annexing the West Bank meaning the end of the two-state solution. I think, yes, this voting, if it goes for the second and third voting in the Knesset, will threaten the Trump initiative in whole, and not just the ceasefire in Gaza. And as I know, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's not worried about what Trump wants. He is more worried about what makes him win the next election more.
Okay, well, let me just, sorry, Ratiba, I'll just bring in Ginger Chapman just for the last few moments. Do you think there is ever a situation where Israel would dare to go ahead and annex the West Bank without the permission of the United States, with that threat hanging over them to lose U.S. support?
Well, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that that is actually one of the biggest threats we face right now. And Israel's actions where they act without the United States, that is one of the other biggest threats. So right now, the biggest threats to the peace process are Israel annexing the West Bank, crossing that red line, their continued aggression against the farmers, and also if Israel continues to if they break the ceasefire in Gaza, that is going to be a big threat to peace.
Okay.
And also, if they annex the West
I've got
Bank.
10 seconds left for you, Ginger, if you could.
Okay, well, essentially, we are at an unprecedented point in history. We've never seen anything like this. The road ahead is going to be very difficult and very rocky, but we have to keep pushing forward. We have to contain Israel. We have to have the support of our Arab partners. And most of all, we need for the Palestinian people to have the right of self-determination and to be safe from slaughter.
Well, thank you very much indeed, both of you, for joining us here on Q News. Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst, and of course Ratiba Natsha as well, member of the Palestinian National Action Committee, joining us from occupied Jerusalem. Thank you very much.